everybody, Patrick Connor here, and welcome to the Knuckles and Gloves podcast, the special edition of the show today. I have Vancouver, Washington's Victor Morales Jr. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I'm out here in LA and just getting some good work in.
I said Vancouver, Washington, and I moved to Vancouver myself a couple of years ago. So it's almost like it's weird even saying that. It's weird even acknowledging that Vancouver has an up and coming fighter. You know what I mean? Vancouver's just kind of like the smaller brother to Portland and whatnot. So it's pretty cool to have a local kid.
Exactly, especially with traveling and stuff. People don't know Vancouver, Washington, unless they either have people that are in Portland or in Vancouver. So anytime I say I'm from Vancouver, they're like, "Oh, Canada, right?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not. That's like 6 hours away, I think, or so." But typically, since my gym is in Portland, I just say I'm from Portland. But definitely, I live in Washington and Vancouver.
Yeah, and it's close enough that it's basically the same metropolitan area that you just say you're from the Portland area or whatever. But look, man, you're 15-0. And when I had just moved up to the Pacific Northwest, I remember reading about you in the Oregonian. Like, I think it was right before I moved up in 2015. And so I've gotten to see quite a transition, and I've basically gotten to see you grow into who you are as a professional, an unbeaten professional fighter, which is really cool. And I mean, cool for me, and obviously way more cool for you. But the pandemic hit. Obviously, that has been a very big blow to just about every fighter. And it seemed like right when you were kind of poised to explode, as a prospect or into contendership, there was a little bit of a halt in momentum. In 2021, you've been able to reclaim that a little bit.
Yeah, most definitely. But I do got to say that I actually went through a hand injury right when everything got locked down. I actually went through a hand injury and had 3 surgeries on it. So as bad as it may sound, COVID honestly gave me the time to just fully rest and heal up and go through physical therapy and just get my hand back to 100%. So really it wasn't a loss to me. I got to spend a lot of time with family while I was healing and stuff. And honestly, I got like vacation and just a break that I never got growing up. I mean, I've been doing this since I was like 7 years old, and I've never really had like just a solid break for a second. And honestly, I think coming into 2021, that really just like made me want to push even harder, to be honest with you, because you just never know, when it was going to come back. And when I was going through physical therapy and stuff, I wasn't the only one that wasn't boxing. That was everybody else wasn't boxing. So that kind of put me in a spot where it's like, okay, I'm not in a rush. There's no fighting right now. So there's really no rush. I feel like had COVID not locked everything down, I would have got in the ring too soon and possibly injured my hand again.
So you mentioned going back to 7 years old is when you started boxing, and that's exactly what some of the content of that article I remember from a number of years ago was. And there are a number of people who have heard about you as a prospect and heard about you as an up and comer, but don't really know your story. Would you mind kind of like going over how exactly, Garden Home, West Portland, and kind of your transition into the top level amateurs and then pros?
Well, the only reason why I even ended up at the gym was my dad was looking for a boxing gym to join. He wanted to start boxing again. He boxed back when he was younger and wanted to get back into the gym again. And he ended up finding the Garden Home and talked to Coach Bill and Rosie. And sure enough, he showed up on like a Monday or a Wednesday. I can't remember. And me and my brothers followed him in there. Me and my younger, right under me brother. I have 3 other brothers. So we both followed him in, and we've been in the gym ever since.
Well, and I actually, something that it didn't register to me at the time, probably because Virgil Ortiz hadn't really gone on to accomplish what he has since then accomplished. But how does it feel knowing that you defeated Virgil Ortiz as an amateur in a pretty big tournament, and then now he's gone on? And I don't mean in the sense of like you comparing your own development to him, but knowing more in the sense that knowing that you've been in there with a number
Yeah,
of these top level guys who are now undefeated, or if not undefeated, still at the top, and you've
right.
already been in there with them. So like you kind of already know what it's like. How does that feel?
It feels good. Obviously we're in the PNW, so no one really looks up that way, to be honest. I really had to make a name for myself in the amateurs, and then and then we met Sean Porter and Kenny Porter, and we kind of linked with them for the next 10 years or so, and they went to all my nationals. They went and traveled with me all around, and then it was time to turn pro, and they really kind of put my name out there and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it feels great. Those guys, they were looked at because of where they were from. He's from Texas, traveled and trained in California, um, and it was always something that I had to work like 3 times harder than everybody else, because of where we're from. No one looks up that way, so I had to really stand out. And then I started traveling, and then traveling around to train and stuff, and eventually they looked that way, and now I am where I am.
Well, and even just kind of being embraced or accepted into the wild card in LA as kind of like a regular somebody who comes in and trains regularly.
Mm-hmm.
That's even just that is kind of thought of as a prestigious or very sought after position as a fighter, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, most definitely. Especially since, I mean, anybody can really show up to the wild card. They have the main area that, I mean, everyone's seen in pictures with Manny Pacquiao in the ring, and it's a gym. But they actually have a private area down below, and that's where, when we go to the wild card, that's where I'm doing all my sparring, is down below with select guys that can get down there, and it's all high level stuff. I mean, we're talking about world champions to um, for future Olympians, former Olympians. I mean, it's top of the top.
Who were some of the fighters that you really like looked up to? I know Andre Ward was one of the fighters that you had mentioned. Who were some other fighters that you really looked up to as an amateur, and then kind of in your earlier pro days, perhaps even now?
Uh, so Andre Ward was always my number one. Obviously, we looked up to Floyd, Pacquiao, anyone that was really making a name and making things happen. Canelo, obviously. I get a lot of things around here. People ask me if I was Canelo, and they thought that I was Canelo for a second, and it's funny. Obviously, Canelo, Marquez, Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. I just looked up to a lot of people, and I kind of tried to incorporate certain things from those guys. See, okay, let's see what I can do with it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. But that's what we're here to do, is figure things out and try new things.
You mentioned Sean Porter and Kenny Porter. Obviously, he's got a massive fight coming up against Terrence
Yeah.
Crawford. But also another thing about Sean Porter that's pretty prominent with his story is that Kenny Porter, his dad, is very much a factor in his career and life. And likewise, your dad, Victor Sr.,
Yeah.
very much a part of your career and life. How important is that aspect of family in your career to you?
When we see those guys, it really, when we met them, actually, it was like an instant like brotherhood thing, because there's not many father sons that are out there. We met them in like 2010, I think, when he was still like Manny Pacquiao's main sparring partner. So we met them at the wild card, and they like took us to across the street to where their apartment was that they were staying in, and this was all like same day that we had met them. It was just brotherhood from there, and then we just stayed in contact. And then as I got older and older, I was training with them off and on, and going and seeing them in Vegas, and they would travel to my nationals and give me tips. Me and Sean, we still talk to this day, honestly. Um, and it was definitely a great friendship and brotherhood that we had, all four of us.
And you would also, I kind of wanted to ask because I was just curious for myself. Your other brothers, did they ever really wind up doing much in boxing, or did they ever get far into it?
Oh, they did. The brother. So I have three brothers. The one that's right underneath me was actually my dad's first national champion, and he was national champion at I think 10 years old.
Okay, so this is a
And he was,
dynasty we're talking about here.
yes. So, and he was my main sparring partner until we were like 16, I think. And I mean, this guy, my brother, he could punch. He could punch. He could box just as well as me, and he could outpoint anybody. But his favorite thing was he liked to punch. He liked to fight, and and that's just how it was. It's just, that's just how he was. And then the little ones, they're going to be 18 this November 26th. So they were a lot younger than us, but they got into it. They had some fights too, and then I ended up turning pro, and so the kind of focus kind of turned towards me. But my brother was underneath me, decided that he got old enough. He didn't really want to do it anymore. So he decided to focus on school, and now he's going to school to do automotive.
Your record, it is 18-0. And I remember I was kind of talking briefly with your dad not too long ago about what your upcoming plans are. But I haven't really seen much written about it. What's on the menu?
Well, we have this fight coming up December 18th. We're fighting another undefeated fighter. He's 12-0. I'm 15-0. So it should be a good battle. I can't remember the name right off the top of my head, but it's December 18th. Contracts are signed and everything. And we're going to go and show, somebody's has to go, and it's not going to be mine. I can promise you that. We're working too hard. I got too much going on that we're fighting for this one.
December 18th, is that the Texas show?
Not that I know of. From what I know right now, they're still trying to get all the main event stuff figured out with the venue and stuff. But it is a set card already. They're just kind of trying to figure it out before they post it out, I believe.
So what are some of the fighters, just to kind of name drop, because why not? Because we're here. Who are some of the fighters or some of the better fighters that you would say you've been in the ring with, wild card or wherever?
Man, there's a lot of fighters that we fought. Some of them that I don't even know their names, but they're just solid guys that were former Olympians. I can drop Adam Lopez. He's here in California. Who else did I spar in the wild card? I sparred with Pitufo. And there's people all around. I mean, some of them that I don't even remember their names. I've obviously gotten in the ring with Sean Porter in the past. And just a lot of different people, honestly.
Do you feel like it kind of adds a little bit of an extra challenge? The fact that, you mentioned the Pacific Northwest, and there's been a bit of a falling off point as far as talent up here, or, I mean, not even so much talent, just the lack of sparring, and there aren't as many gyms as there used to be. There aren't as many tournaments up here as there used to be, etc. And so therefore fighters from the Pacific Northwest, as in some other parts of the country or world, have to travel around and have to kind of figure out where it is they can get sparring or the best work. Do you feel like that adds an extra challenge, or do you feel like that's just part of the journey and that's just what you need to do?
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, we're obviously coming out here and we're not just sparring anybody. I mean, we're sparring top guys. These are guys that are coming from around the world, and coming to get the same thing that we are, the best work that you can get. But I mean, I wish that I would have sparring at home. This would be a lot easier. We wouldn't have to spend as much money. But it's all worth it. It keeps me grounded and gives me something to work for. It makes me hungry. It makes me we're not comfortable here is what it is. So when you're not comfortable, you're really on your toes. You're really fighting. And these aren't necessarily sparring sessions we talk about. These are like ring wars that we're going through a lot of the times. I mean, I think that's just, some people stay at home and train, and some people they move down south or anywhere, usually to California or Vegas or some of those towns, and that's just something that we had to do.
So would you say the next 12 to 18 months looks like for you?
So we're going to get this fight to finish off the year. we'll get 3 more next year, and hopefully that we're fighting for a title next year. That's the plan.
Title next year. That's pretty good stuff, and it's, I think, well within your reach, dude, for sure. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me, and I know that you're doing a lot of hard training out there, and so you're busy, and I appreciate you stepping away.
Oh, I appreciate you getting me on and talking. I love to talk to anybody that really wants to know and to put me out there. I really appreciate it.
Well, in the meanwhile, before you guys tune in for our next show, if you want to go ahead and follow Victor Morales Jr., I see you on Instagram fairly often, and that's probably the best place to follow you, I would imagine, at official_Victor Morales. That would probably be the best place to catch up, it seems, although you are on Facebook too, I know. But also, if you do want to subscribe to the Knuckles and Gloves podcast, go ahead, and we're on all the regular podcast apps. We're on YouTube now, Facebook, all of that stuff. Much appreciated. Victor, thanks again, man.
Thank you so much.
Take it easy, everybody.